Welcome everyone, my name is Kieran Haslam and I'm your host. This is episode 5 of the Princess Experience, and this week we cast the spotlight on the F45. So for the walkthrough on the F45, we'll join Ross Gill, and I'll be speaking to Thomas Millstam of East Sweden about his journey with Princess. We will also be speaking to Mary Hall to take us through the Princess Design Studio, which is based in London, and Pete Cullum is going to talk to us about sustainability and also a little bit about personalisation and the materials, the trim and the selection aboard a Princess. Additionally, at the end of this episode, we're going to have our webinar. Now, these webinars are becoming extremely popular, but we still encourage you to take part and register. The details are in the description along with this video. And in addition, I'd like to invite all of you to take note of our email so that you can write in with your questions, your queries, or your suggestions for future topics for us to explore throughout the series. And now, over to Ross on the F45.
So as is a theme on this F45, the main deck and saloon and galley really is a great space. Again, lots of thought has gone into the design, the detail of the boat, the quality of the materials we're using. Case in point, one single sheet of windscreen. So no mullions there in the middle to obstruct your view, and really is a lovely space. Foredeck's got a pop-up cushion so you can have a headrest there and easy wide side access out to that area. Add into the light that goes down into the lower accommodation. So when you're down there, that light floods down into it. Distribution board, so all your major everyday breakers are underneath that locker. There's storage on the far side with a power point and USB. More breakers underneath there. Coming over here, we've got the helm. Looking forward again, you can see out of here beautifully. Great visibility all around. Quite a nice little feature is the slide open window to let some fresh air in. All your instruments are within easy grasp. So you've got your joystick control, your throttles, and obviously the wheel. This seat is movable, so you can slide it forward should you want to. Twin screens here to give you all your engine instrumentation, all your navigation kit, and this boat is fitted with the Seakeeper, which you can fully control from that head unit. And of course, air conditioning vents if it's too hot to open the window, you can get plenty of aircon into you. Moving around, definitely class leading. Yeah, this is a big seating area. You can have a choice of tables here, so if you didn't want a large dining room table, this can be sort of a smaller unit. But I mean, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, easily 5 people can sit around this table, if not 6. And then opposite, you have the twin seater. Behind that is your pop-up TV, and below is where we store our crockery, so teacups, saucers, plates, bowls. Good use of space. Let's come back through the boat. You have 2 steps. Now that gives you a headroom down in the master cabin, and of course we have more storage. Nicely designed again, you know, coming out at a nice angle. Bigger one below there. This boat, if I'm right, has fitted 2 additional refrigeration units underneath there, and of course more storage above. Big locker that goes underneath the flybridge stairs which go up this side of the boat, and then on this side we have the galley. Good handhold, so when you are moving through the boat in a bit of a seaway, there's somewhere to grab onto. Storage, ice maker on this boat, interesting to see that there. Sink, microwave oven, dishwasher should you want it, or that could be a cupboard, cooktop, and then some cavernous lockers up here above. If you take a moment to look through, you can see it really is a light, airy main deck. Lots of design features, as I said before. Integrated name audio, stereo system, so you know there's no short change. It's maybe the smallest flybridge we build, but that doesn't mean that you are compromising on anything. It's still a Princess in every sense of the word. Okay, so then we move on to the aft deck. As you can see, a lot of space. This boat comes with an optional sliding back seat, which is connected to the table. So that whole section moves back, and as you can see, you know, really for a 45-foot boat, a vast aft deck. And even when that is slid in, it's still class lead in terms of the space we have back here. The seat itself is a bit of a design feature. You can see lovely handhelds on either side, and then one of my favourite spots, sat here, you can actually have a good conversation with your guests when they're sat back. When that moves in, there's an infill seat, so this becomes one big continuous bench all the way around. And of course, you've got the aft table, which folds out should you want to, and then doubles up as somewhere to grab onto. Underneath here is your access to your generators and your engines, so that pops up and then you drop down into that the engine room. Moving over, you've got the staircase up to the flybridge. Underneath the staircase is quite a vast locker for shoes and other knickknacks that you collect when you are boating. Your passerelle and bathing platform controls are just here. And then as we move down onto the bathing platform, you'll see comes with an up-down hydraulic bathing platform. That's an option, so you don't have to have it if you didn't want to. Now, the seat is slid out, as I said, so this space becomes a little tighter when it is out, but when it's in, no problem getting in around your tender. Storage locker. Should you want to, this can be a barbecue, so this can be a nice area to cook your barbecue when you're at anchor, or somewhere else to put your ropes, wetsuits, life jackets if you've been in the water playing. So I hope you agree this is a class-leading boat. You know, as I said before, the F45 may be our entry-level flybridge boat, but it by no means is a compromise on anything that Princess does.
We are currently in our Princess Design Studio in Mayfair in London, where we have our design library and where we have our customer meetings. We realised when we were building our M-Class boats that there was a real need for that detailed specification and personalisation that customers would require. You know, there's a lot of space on board those boats, and so really we were brought in to offer that in-house service, which we feel really, really proud to have. So the level of specification through Princess Design Studio ranges from anything really, anything aesthetics. So your timbers, your bathroom finishes, marbles, soft furnishings. It's about an understanding through the specification of those materials how the customer wishes to use the boat. Whether they be living outside, you know, does it depend on, is it comfort, is it practicality, is it style, you know, a look that they'd like to achieve. We're a really dynamic team of designers. We all come from different backgrounds, from textiles, from fashion, from architecture. So we really feel that we have a really varied level of expertise. So it means that we can accommodate different tastes that we receive, you know, different briefs that we receive from our customers. But ideally, you know, we like to have physical meetings. We discuss and look at the materials together and go through that process. We can often travel to where they are in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be in the UK. And recently we've been doing so on Zoom or Teams calls, which has been working really well. So presenting our concept to them and looking through the materials and the finishes and the furniture that we've selected. We come as part of the package really for all boats above 70 foot. However, you know, we are there as a support service and we really would love to work on as many boats as we can. So we have various tools that we use in order to establish the customer's wishes and desires for their styling. So we have our lookbook, which is a visual presentation really of a range of varying colour palettes. That way the customer can communicate with us, you know, their preference with regard to a colour or a texture or whatever. Integrated into the lookbook is also current trends, so things that the customer maybe wouldn't have considered. We also have a design brief, which is a document that we send the customer. In there you have opportunities to express your favourite designer, whether it be materials or furniture, or if there's something you'd like us to take inspiration from. You know, we're one of the only boat builders that has an internal in-house design studio for interiors. So we really understand the design intent for each model. We understand the space on board. So one of the key parts of our role is interpretation, so interpreting the client's wishes for their styling, interpreting the design intent for the boat, but also bringing in our expertise. So it's a case of bringing that together to make sure that the end result is a perfect collaboration, but at the same time making sure that the project is personalised to that customer.
And now we have with us in the studio Mary Hall.
Hi, Kieran.
Mary, you are responsible for the design studio and you call London your home, and that's where most of the magic takes place. We've just seen this. The viewers have a pretty good understanding of what the design studio does and the magic that happens within your domain. And Mary, you know, the whole world of design in terms of yachting has changed. You know, the great example I can give you is the galley going from lower deck, up and then aft. And the way in which customers are using products has changed as well.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in terms of design? You're right in close proximity to all of our clients, and pretty much you're making their wishes and their dreams a reality. So what have you seen over the last couple of years in terms of the direction of yacht design and what customers want out of their yacht?
Customers are spending a lot more time on their boats. We certainly see that with Princess. So, you know, it's not always just they'll take the boat away for the week. They may be on there for up to 2 months with their children, with their family. So we have to make sure that the space is relaxed and comfortable and practical if required. So the spaces that we try and create are more functional, perhaps, or perhaps they're, you know, we worked on a project 2 years ago where the customer, you know, they said, well, I'm never going to use a formal dining table, so I want the whole saloon to be a really comfortable space that I can enjoy and watch television or have drinks or have an evening with my friends and family. So we redesigned that whole space around, you know, what they could see, what their vision was, and we had to realise it really.
And sort of multi-generational use of a particular product. Have you got some examples of interesting things that you've done, you know, customers who are focusing on their children's enjoyment aboard and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've worked on various projects where, you know, the customer said, well, my children are going to be on board, you know, they love to watch films, so we developed a cinema in one of the aft staterooms of the boat. So, and it was obviously we had to go through all the details of customizing the wallpaper, so it was printed onto an acoustic fabric so that we had no sound issues, but that the print on the design was suitable for the children, so they had somewhere lovely that they could go and hang out, basically.
Yeah, and when I come and see you in London and I walk down into the Aladdin's cave of wonder, you know, I see a lot of mood boards and really inspiring, you know, ideas. I've often spoken to you about this. What's the next wave? What are you seeing? What are the trends that are sort of entering our sphere now?
With regard to materials and things, I mean, sustainability is a huge point for everybody at the moment. So that sort of ties in with the current trends for 2020, for example. It's the use of a lot more natural fibres and organic fabrics and things, so softer colours. I mean, the concept at the moment really is about relaxed living and comfort, and, you know, style shouldn't be something that whacks you in the face. It should be something that is in the detail. So, you know, it should be simplicity really, but with that elegant edge.
And Mary, as the person who's responsible for the design studio, everyone wants to leave their mark. What do you want to realise in the opportunity that you have steering Princess design?
I mean, in a way, it's just what I feel we're doing, we're progressively doing, is the style of a Princess yacht, which I feel that I've been involved with for the last 5 years and helped to build, is completely different from the style of an interior that you would see on another boat at Dusseldorf Boat Show.
Yeah.
Our style is completely stands out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
timeless as well, isn't it?
Timeless.
We're both lucky. We've both been in the business almost a similar period of time.
Yeah.
But we've sort of changed our understanding of what luxury is, or certainly I have. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I sort of feel that luxury should be accessible. Luxury should be something that everybody can have a taste of. So it doesn't need to be the most expensive thing there, but it needs to be, the luxury is that it gives that person what they want.
Yeah.
So, you know, delivering that to somebody who, you know, something you may think is luxury, I may not. So it's just about satisfying that customer and being able to deliver their vision, really.
Mary, thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. Stick around because we're going to answer a few viewers' questions shortly, and that's Mary Hall, responsible for the Princess Design Studio. And now we're going to join Ross aboard the F45.
So welcome to the F45, and the F45 stateroom is where we are right now. Now this is a very important product to Princess. The F45 is the start of our flybridge range. Now with that brings a lot of responsibility, because we're often bringing people into big boating for the first time. They may have had a V40 before, or maybe the first time they've had a Princess. So when you buy a Princess, you expect to have the design, the quality, and the fantastic use of space that you get on her bigger sisters. So it was a real challenge for our designers, and we hope to show you some of those aspects and how this boat works as we work our way through the boat. As you can see here, big TV. So you've got a 50-inch TV in here, should you want it. Outboard and that on both sides you have wardrobes. So mirror on this one, that one's just raw wood and walnut, or satin walnut in this case. Lovely big brother windows, as is a feature on all Flybridge and all Princesses. Nice opening porthole, particularly big one on this one. And then those design cues I was talking about, the way we have this lovely curve going down with the mirror behind it, just adds that little bit of difference. You know, there's no bare fiberglass in these boats, as you come to expect. Everything is lined with a nice fabric and textured, real good, nice feel. Good sized bed. You know, the bed is a proper king. Either side you've got lockers and storage underneath. And on the opposite side to me, you have those deep pull-out drawers. So no shortage of storage for when you're cruising. Moving forward, in there you can have an optional washer dryer should you want it. And then outboard you have your ensuite. Pocket door to make the most of the space. Lovely shower. That bar window so you get lots of natural light in, but you have a view when you're showering, and plenty of cupboard space there. Moving up into the foyer area. Big single piece glazing above us, which floods this area with light, so there's no dark holes here. You've got a beautiful mirror to reflect it and really give you a sense of space. And then you move forward into the VIP. Now, 45-footer, but we still have these lovely arrow windows or knife windows going forward. They not only let the light in, but also give you a lovely vista when you're out on the water and view out for any guests staying in this cabin. Plenty of lockers, so we have overhead lockers on both sides. Another mirror with storage behind it, as well as a locker underneath, and of course underneath the bed as well, those pull-out drawers. Behind the door, nice feature. We have Jack and Jill doors on this boat, so you have your ensuite, but there's another door out into the corridor, so your guests, when they're on board during the day, can use this head, and then we have guests overnight, they have their own ensuite.
Thank you very much to Ross, and now we're joined in the studio by Pete Cullum, who's responsible for creative design. Pete, welcome.
How are you doing?
Not too bad at all, not too bad at all. Now, usually when you're watching these kids programs, they always have somebody on who brings in a couple of cages and they've got like a vulture or a mole or something like that. It's a bit of a show and tell experience. In our situation, you've got this wonderful assortment of items to talk through.
Yeah, it's not quite as exciting as a vulture, but it's pretty cool for us.
It's very cool for us, and it's always hard for me because as the host of this show I have to ask these questions that I sometimes already know the answer to, but I very much want to do it for the benefit of our viewers because I think that some of the magic that you're getting involved with is really going to shape the future of not just Princess but yachting in general. But before we do that, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you're responsible for here at Princess?
So, creative design, it's a multifaceted design discipline, which is something that really appeals to me. It's everything from the character of the interior design, so whether we're using very soft curves or whether it's quite hard and angular or whether a sofa is kind of quite overt and floaty, that kind of thing, right through to craftsmanship detailing, so designing in, stitching, or really picking out details of pieces of timber joints, that sort of thing, and then onto materials as well.
But in this industry, it's really so exciting because you can reshape not just the product and how it looks, but how it functions, or where it's going to be 50 years from today at the end of its life cycle. And it's brilliant because some of the conversations we've had around the items, for example, that are here before us, they're really exciting conversations because of how we can actually reinvent ourselves, reinvent our products and our processes. And the challenge is on because there are a lot of customers who are approaching us and saying, what can I have as an alternative? Can I get a vegan interior? Can I have an alternative to that form? Can I have really, really low output in terms of emissions and engines and that kind of efficiency? Where do you sit in all of this and what's getting you really excited at the moment?
It's if you think of the environment is the greatest thing that's on the world agenda at the moment. It's eclipsing absolutely everything else, and like every other company ought to be doing, we are taking this very seriously. And this, if you have a look at some of these materials that we have around us now, this is merely, it's just a drop in the ocean really in terms of the journey that we're going on. But what we've tried to do as a department is really think seriously about the kinds of materials that we use, the products that we use on a daily basis, and things that we think are going to make a really good impact and positive impact in terms of the business and in terms of in the environment as well. Perhaps if I can start talking about some of these.
Please, I'm really eager to touch a couple of things. This is rather extraordinary, isn't it?
This is amazing. I mean, it may look like a simple plastic tray to you and I. Doesn't smell of coffee anymore, but it's made from basically the grounds from espresso coffee, and that's injection molded into this tray, which is fantastic. You know, the use of some beautiful Italian coffee to make that.
Yeah, and I mean, the first question is it practical? I mean, how long would something like this last?
Absolutely. It's this particular grade is as practical as any plastic that you might use to make that component from.
Right, great. And the other thing that I can see in your little magic assortment is flax, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? And it starts with this, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's a crop, obviously, flax. It's grown in both the UK and Europe and around the world. It's completely renewable. It's quite an interesting material, linen, anyway. And if you combine it with a resin, you can get a really, really good, very strong structure. And it's very lightweight. It's stronger than glass fibre. And it has very good noise, vibration, and harmony properties. So in terms of noise transmission around a hull, it's actually better than the current materials that we're using.
And we're not ahead of the curve on this, because you and I discussed this in Dusseldorf at the beginning of the year. There was an exhibit which actually had a real boat.
Green boats, yes, the sailboat. Yeah. Beautiful, it absolutely looks incredible. Yeah. Yeah,
and the rigidity comes from all of this weave that's in here as well, isn't it? It's not just the material, it's the combination.
Absolutely, that's like a fishing net effectively on the inside, and the combination of that extra piece of structure with the thin woven composite on the outside gives it all its strength. Yeah. Saves all the weight.
Yeah. And what else have you got, Pete? You've got...
So here we've got a recycled, so this is a worktop. It's actually quite thin, but we've obviously made up the edge to be a little bit thick, which is how we do with our current worktops anyway. But this is made from recycled plastics, and you can choose basically the colour of the material based on the plastic filter that goes into it.
Yeah.
And it's fully recyclable again, so this can be ground down at the end of use and turned into another work surface.
Yeah, yeah. It's fantastic. I mean, really it is. And the last one that we've got here is sort of probably an obvious one. At Princess, we're very well known for our interiors and also for our wood selections. And so we have here bamboo, and I can see a couple of other bits and pieces around us. Just talk us through what you hope to achieve by bringing materials like this into play.
This is not just any bamboo, this is a fantastic bamboo. It grows up to 1 metre a day, so it grows incredibly quickly. Again, it's a crop, so it can be harvested and it can regrow. It uses far less water than the equivalent for a forest, trees. And yeah, it's an absolutely incredible material. It's very hard as well, so we can use it for flooring, for cabinetry, all sorts of surfaces basically where we'd use normal timber.
Yeah.
So that, as you see, it's split down into staves. Those staves are glued together to make up these panels. And then we can make something like this this test piece that we've made here, which is part of the E1X stairwell.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the obvious transition into the journey of all of this material, really, isn't it? This is sort of the entry point, because it makes total sense to be looking at alternatives like this. What's the next step? What are you hoping to do to take us to that next step here at Princess?
The next step is really to introduce this into production. So for me, it might be that we do a one-off boat, something like that as a test piece, gain some interest with that, and then from there we get a level of comfort that things work and they're to a quality that we would expect for the Princess brand.
Yeah.
and then we can roll it out across the range as a selectable option.
Wow, that's really, really wonderful. Thank you very much for showing us this. You're going to stick around because we're going to have Mary join us again, and we're going to maybe explore and answer some of the questions that have come in from our viewers at the moment. But Pete, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kieran.
This is Pete Cullum, who's responsible for creative design here at Princess. He's not going to go anywhere, he's going to stick around. But now we're going to go back to Ross.
So welcome to the flybridge of the F45, and like the rest of the boat, this is a really well thought out space. Up at the helm area you have two seats, one for the navigator, one for the helmsman. Well thought because you can get out of either one of them without disturbing each other, so person doesn't have to move out of the way. You can have two screens up here. We've got one shown today, but you can have the optional two screens should you want to. Obviously your IPS controls here, which is joystick and throttles. This boat is powered by the 440 horsepower or the 480. Moving over, we have a joystick for the bow thruster. This is just in case you would want to have a bit of extra control on that bow, which some people like to go for. And then a really neat integrated phone charger there. Drop your new iPhone on there, and it will charge through induction. Coming over, we have a nice area. This turns into your day bed. You've got a slide out section under here. There's just a nice space to sit, converse with the person driving the boat, and get out the wind if you wanted a bit of a relaxation. Nice little pop-up lantern here to add a bit of ambient light as the night draws in. Moving aft, we've got the wet bar. So lift this up and you've got a good integrated Kenyan grill there, sink, good storage underneath, and on this side we have the drop-in refrigerator, so for drinks or food. Moving aft, I think for a 45-footer we've got class-leading seating area. Multi-use table, folds over or folds back as you have now, so you can have a main dinner up here or you can just use it for coffee. If you're in the rougher seas, there's a lovely handrail behind here just to get a bit of extra purchase for your guests to feel nice and secure. You can order this boat with the hard top, or as this one is, you can have the bimini. Now that comes in hydraulic or manual depending on what your preference is. Well, I hope you agree that the F45 really is a triumph of design and logical thinking. We've tried to make a boat that is a princess in our baby flybridge. So whether it's in the forward cabin, whether it's in the saloon or up here on the flybridge, in every aspect, you'll get in a true princess in every shape of the word. Now, if you'd like to have more details on one of these boats, please get in contact with your local distributor and they'll be delighted to help you. Now, later on today, we'll all be answering questions in our webinar. So if you have any areas you'd like to go into more detail in, please feel free to ask the questions and we'll see if we can answer your questions. Thanks very much.
So thank you very much to Ross on the F45 for that little tour. And now some of the most fascinating stories that we have at Princess are the human stories. And I possibly can't think of a more intriguing one than to connect up now with Thomas Millstam, who's in Sweden and who has been in the Princess family for a really long time. Thomas, it's so great to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Thomas Millstam, and I'm with a company called Inner Marine in Stockholm, Sweden. And we have actually been selling your boats since 1975. And I remember coming to Plymouth with my family when I was just over 9 years old to look at the Princess 32. Because we used to have a boat called Albin 25 in the family. That's how it all started.
And it is wonderful. I've seen some of the home videos that you took yourself traveling to our site with your father. And from those days, we have the film footage, and it's an extraordinary journey. And Thomas, just in terms of what the brand meant to you as you know, the first couple of times that you came to visit us and how it's changed over time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, initially, I knew nothing about the brand because it was not really represented in Sweden at all. So hardly anyone really know what Princess was at that time. So it took probably a few years to really understand what it was all about. But it's developed incredibly since then. But it was even at that time an elegant boat, I must say. The design was still good.
And in a remarkable way, you're like the heavyweight champion of our network in many respects, because you've sold over 1,000 princesses. You know, that's astonishing. Can you tell us a little bit about what people expect from a boat in your territory, in your region, and how they spend their time aboard and what they focus on?
What's a little bit different compared to many other boating areas in the world is that people actually live on board the boats here. They really use them as floating summer homes. So for that reason, the demand for accommodation is a bit different because of that. I know that in the Mediterranean, a lot of the big boats are being used as day cruises almost, but not here. People definitely live on board. So we tend to specify the boats a bit more heavy than most others because of that. And we need heater rather than air conditioning as well.
Yeah. And in terms of the current environment for boating, what are some of the new trends and the new sort of behaviors and expectations on boating that you're starting to see with your experience in your market?
What you can see is people actually tend to go a bit slower with the boats nowadays. They seem to think part of the time on board is a journey, and then you don't have to drive so fast. That also can be to save some fuel and money, and also be a little bit more environmentally cautious. Around the Swedish coastline, in many areas, we have a lot of islands. So you can cruise in water, inland, in a protected way. And especially between the islands, you can see people not going so fast any longer. That's definitely a trend.
Yeah. Thomas, tell us, if you look at the current Princess product range, which product within our lineup is your favorite and why?
I think that actually, when you see the design on the S66, I think that actually stands out. Actually, it's a little bit lower profile on some of the boats. It's really nice and sleek, and also very good performance, and good layout, of course, 4 cabins. So that's a very, very nice boat, I think.
Yeah. So Thomas, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I really hope we get a chance to talk more in future episodes as well. You've got an incredible story and a journey at Princess, and we've got lots of Princess craftspeople who have been at the business for the same sort of length that you've been involved in the business, and long may it continue. And it's just an honor to be to have you in the family. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you so much.
All the best. So thank you very much to Thomas Millstam in East Sweden, who has an extraordinary journey and some extraordinary footage as well. So what we thought we'd do is show you just a little bit of the footage that Thomas captured as a 9-year-old on his first visit to Plymouth. So we're joined once again by both Mary and Pete. Welcome once again. Hello. We've got some questions which have come in, and I'm just going to talk to you guys to sort of get some further understanding about what you're both respectively responsible for. Pete's put his vulture away, thankfully, but we went through your the future possibilities of materials. Mary, you're right with the clients. What are they most interested in? What's the best path for Pete to realise his dream of this new material?
Hypothetically, if we were creating a new boat, and we know that going forwards the environment is the big issue.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be interesting for clients, going forwards, to have a boat like this, to use some of these new materials, to have bamboo flooring and timber, and have this amazing hull made from flax?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a really important subject for everyone at the moment. So we do our bit, you guys do your bits as well. But anything that we can offer that's additional that means that the client doesn't have to change their specification every couple of years. It's something that's long lasting.
But I guess also it's this is a little bit off the menu, isn't it? So I imagine there could be some interest in terms of the fact that nothing exists at the moment. It's completely new, it's completely fresh.
Sort of the ultimate in bespoke, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you actively making it a point when customers, it may not be a surface fabric or a surface finish, but when a customer's looking at, interesting designs and, want to have that as an accompaniment to the design that's on the boat, what are you able to present these opportunities for exploring new materials that are totally sustainable or reconstituted from fishing nets?
Absolutely. I mean, the quality, many of the suppliers we work with at the moment, the design is still there, it's better, but the fact is they have that additional benefit of being sustainable. So, many of the metals they use, they reduce the use of heavy metals, so they'll be using bronze trimmings and etc., coppers, etc. They use natural marbles rather than man-made stone. They use, the timber finishes they use are responsibly sourced. So it's just an additional benefit to what they can offer. So you still get that great design, which is why we go to them and why our customers love them. But they just have that additional benefit, which, we can incorporate into our interiors.
And just sort of building on that, I think in terms of the standard palette of materials that we use for the boat, years ago when I suppose the whole question of the environment was coming up, materials tended to have a very much craft paper, slightly homemade kind of aesthetic to them. And now they're incredibly sophisticated, and things have moved on so far that honestly you couldn't tell the difference between something that was a responsible material, if you like, and something that wasn't.
Exactly. So it's basically a hidden benefit there. So, you're looking after the environment, but you're also still delivering that design and that look that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And in a way, if we can do it in bite-sized chunks, it's always easier. And Pete, you've got a background with really large yachts as well. How are you seeing this sort of transformation into a smaller boating experience from a sustainability perspective?
Moving from large super yacht background into smaller boats, essentially in terms of what customers are looking for, it's a little bit the moon on the stick. It's kind of and maximising internal space, reducing weight, and making environments feel as large and as bright and open as possible. And certainly. I think what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps, for both of our teams by specifying surfaces that are light in colour, materials that are lighter in colour. So, you rely less on artificial lighting. You can use the natural light that you're given. So that way, saving on energy.
Yeah, and it's not just these, on the new frontier of material science and development, is it? I mean, it's simple things, thermal efficiency, the way you operate your product as well. And you're very right, Pete. There's a lot of people who are moving to smaller sized boats which can exact the same volume and same functionality and deliver everything that you would want out of a really large yacht.
You think of X95 and
exactly.
That's a perfect example where you've got a TARDIS, really. You've got something that feels so big on the outside and 95 feet.
Yeah, and I know we're focused on the F45 for this episode, but in relation to the X95, I mean, it must be an absolute dream for both of you in terms of the possibilities of a product like that. I mean, Mary, and talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the great thing about this boat is actually that within the standard design package, there are already options for layout. So, you know, before we even get involved, you can customize it to how you'd like to use that space. You know, it's a huge space in there, so it really is about maximizing how you're going to use the boat. You know, who's going to spend lots of time on there, you know. So that's one great thing, you know, that we start off with. But, you know, we've worked with Pete's team and you guys really create sort of effectively initially a standard range of really high quality, you know, exterior furniture and coffee tables and lighting and that kind of thing. So really the base package already is a luxury. And then where we come in and we would add to that, but really just, you know, not necessarily adding quality, but just adding a personalisation. So
absolutely, you're allowing the client, or you're delivering the client's personal stamp really on the boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Pete, Mary, thank you so much for being in this episode. If you can, stick around for the webinar straight after. And if you would like to participate in the webinar, the details are in the description along with the video. But for now, that's it for this episode, and we'll see you in the next instalment of the Princess Experience. Thank you very much.